Hi, Dr. Sperlazza. I'm so excited to see you again. It's been a while. And
Lydia, how are you? Please call me Darlene.
I want to call you doctor. You are
Dr.
so
Darlene.
wise and you have so much wisdom and so much you're doing these studies, which I can't wait to put on the show.
Mhm.
The
There
cholesterol
are all
studies. Yeah.
there are all kinds of studies that have been done between spirituality, um, physical, mental, parts of the human being. People forget that we have all these parts, and
Mhm.
all of the parts need to be tended to have a wholesome 100% life. If you're deficient in any one of those areas, it kind of makes you off kilter, so to speak. So what we do here with God shots and the God shots things that we talk about,
Mhm.
it's important for people to recognize their own God shots and what's happening in their life, to tap into the spiritual realm, to make sure that their spiritual being is also being fed, no different than your physical being, your mental health, those type of things. So it's a very unique, um, it's just a very, very unique.
Intersection across,
Yeah,
to me,
yeah.
it's like you cannot really eliminate the mental, your state of mind when you're dealing with the body. I've always believed that the mind-body connection was there. Now, the spiritual realm, why don't you
Mhm.
define that for me? For me, it's the higher thoughts of love. Whenever I think of God, I think of love. And for people who don't want to incorporate religion into this, when you're loving toward people, when you act against your primal, primitive, angry instincts, which really are like envy, greed, sloth, all the seven deadly sins or whatever.
Mhm.
When I'm really thinking higher thoughts, I am more loving, I'm lighter. I wear the world as a loose garment. So how do you define the word spiritual?
Well, spiritual, I think people, the first thing I want to clarify is what I think spirituality is not. And I
Okay.
don't think it's religion. And I think a lot of people get confused in that. Like when I'm taking care of patients and I'm talking to either patients or students, and I'll say something about spirituality, they're like, well, I'm Methodist, or I'm Catholic, or I'm,
Right,
Presbyterian, or a Muslim. Well, none of those are what I'm even talking about. That's a religion,
right,
right? And people can find peace in religion. I
right.
mean, oftentimes if you go into a church or you go into a church type event, you can find peace there because it's quiet and there's no cell phones, and it's you get good positive information given to you, okay, like about the good, about goodness, and about health and wellness and kindness and love and all the things that you just said. So you get those in those environments. And when you're being fed good information or you're being fed good food, your body's healthy. When you're being fed good spiritual food, your spirit's healthy, right?
Mhm.
What To me, what it is it's a dimension that goes beyond our materialistic world.
I love that.
It's spirituality is different. It's an entity, but it's not materialistic. You cannot think materialistic things and end up in a spiritual path. It's just dichotomy. It won't work.
Interesting how, to me, there's a mystical connection, and maybe it's meant to stay a mystery. I cannot explain how I got sober. That one day, all I did was raise my hand and admit I had a problem. I surrendered. I waved a white flag that I had a problem. Admitting it out loud was the main, major first step prayer I ever did that actually changed life in the physical realm. And I didn't do much after that, but become willing to just keep listening and opening my heart and being willing to be teachable.
That's
And
perfect.
from that moment on, some force of love lifted me up and took the reins. And from that moment on, that force of love did all the heavy lifting. I didn't do much more than just show up and
Exactly.
become willing.
Exactly. And I think that's what people miss is that, you can call it spirituality, you can call it the universe, you can call it the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension, whatever you want to call it. It's just not our materialistic world that you can see.
Yeah.
It's very present, but you don't see it. But
Yeah.
sometimes you get to see it. And let me give you a little explanation of that. So when it was 2018, I believe, so like 7 years ago, I was going through a very difficult time. I was married at the time. My husband had cancer. It was very disconcerting. And for those of you out there that walk that journey, either yourself or your caretaker, prayers to you all because it's a very difficult path to walk. It's just super difficult. And that's where I was at. And I was at the ocean and I was staring out a window at 4 in the morning and everything was black. Sky was black, ocean was black. It was just dark and my soul was black. I was just lost. I didn't know how to do this anymore. I didn't know how to be a caretaker. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where it was going. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel any of those things. And I just remember being in the window. Now, who was I talking to? I don't know. I choose to call that God. Some people choose to call that Jesus. Some people don't know. I'm not sure I know, but it's somebody higher than myself. And I just kind of laid it all out there, crying, sobbing, just getting it out of my head. When the sun started coming up, I went outside to take a walk on the ocean. And as I was walking, I saw three seashells. The first one I saw was royal blue, which kind of gave me pause for a minute because I'm walking on the beach. Then I saw a pink one, and then I saw a light blue one. And I'm like, what's happening here? And I reached down and I picked up the royal blue one, and on it, it said, release your fear. And I was like, what? And then I got the other one that was the clamshell, and it said, you're enough. And then the third one said, love fiercely.
You're
It was
kidding.
answers to every single thing I had said in the window that morning, had rolled up out of the ocean. Obviously, somebody put them there from somewhere else. They were wet. They were at my feet. They were my messages from God that everything was going to be okay.
Wow. Wait a minute.
And
Stop for a sec. These are actually words written in these seashells, on the seashells?
on the seashells, yes, yes. I
Oh,
have them today in my curio cabinet. They're my most prized possession.
oh my
And when
gosh.
I picked them up, I snapped a picture of them. I was holding them in my hand, and for I don't know, it felt like a while, and I'm sure it was just seconds, but I was transported somewhere other than where I was standing. My feet were on the beach, the seashells were there, the sun was coming up, the waves were rolling in, but I was someplace else spiritually. And I was in a realm that felt peaceful, that felt loving, that felt tears were just streaming down my face. And I just kept saying, you heard me, you heard me, you heard me, because I got answers, right? I had answers. And as I walked back to the condo complex and we had security there, the security guard knew me. I've been going there for 10 years. And he says, what do you got in your hand? I said, oh, these are my gifts from God. And he's like, what does that mean? And I kind of told him the story I just told you. And he said, well, you're glowing. People were stopping me that whole entire day telling me that I looked like I was glowing. And it was like the transfiguration story in the Bible, you know. But when you think about that story, after the transfiguration and getting to see Jesus turn completely white and all that stuff, the apostles went through some really bad times. And I can tell you that after that, picking up those seashells, my life got really crazy. I mean, I ended up getting a divorce from this man with cancer. Not that I did it, he did it. I mean, nothing, none of this was expected.
Wow.
And so I went through some very difficult times, and those seashells kept bringing me back to the spiritual realm of things, knowing because I'd had an experience to know that that was real.
Mm.
And that's why I like doing the show with you because you have stories of that realness. I want to hear one in a minute. There's people that listen to this that have stories. We want to be storytellers with our God Shots podcast
Right.
to let everybody come on and tell their stories
Yeah.
because that's amazing goodness in a world today that's extremely troubled. And we need to be getting the good, powerful messages out
Yes.
about the higher power versus going to the lower level and talking of, gun violence and terrible things that are happening and just all of the stuff that's keeping us mired in materialism and on this earth.
Exactly.
So tell me one of your gut shots.
Oh, well, you just said about glowing. It's really weird. After I got sober, I had this experience where I had many levels of falling up, I call it, because I was still in the mortal realm. I call the material world, the mortal realm, you know, kind of Lord of the Rings, and it's all very, clunky and materialistic, and we're bumping heads with people and we're disagreeing and we're focused
Right,
on the primitive. And you can live there and it's not very happy. And some people are fueled by caffeine and resentment, or, I sometimes say the only medication I'm on is self-pity. Because,
Yeah.
I actually sort of enjoy my self-pity at times. And we can have fun with being assholes to people and being rude and then getting our self-righteous indignation. But it doesn't prolong your life or your joy, and it pushes people away. And I've found that connection is my biggest thrill, being connected to lots of diverse people of all different religions and all different
Yeah.
backgrounds. And that's why I love New York City. I love, there's so many different languages. You go into a bagel store and you hear them speaking, Yiddish or Farsi even. Or, in
Yeah.
every little grocery store, there's some new language. I love it. I love it. I love going to Europe as well, by the way. But I had this weird thing happen to me when I asked the universe, as an actress, it's really hard to stay pretty and young, and the industry puts women in a box. And they were always saying you have to be thinner and younger and prettier, and that's the message we're given as women. And I was a reluctant sex symbol, and I'm in parade this week, and they go, TV icon from the 80s. But that's a person I don't really know anymore. And she was cute for a while, but she was pretty naive, and I was walking around like kind of a dumb blonde at times. I got very successful very quickly, very lucky, and then I had to grow up on the other side. But um, it's really interesting. When I got sober, my sober story, and one day I'll tell that on the air. But I started asking the universe, God, I call it God as well, because, or Gus, Great Universal Spirit. Do I
Mhm.
have to be an actress anymore? Can I just be a writer? I have so many ideas I want to share. I have cool thoughts. I want to do comedy, spiritual therapy comedy. And I asked the question, can I give up acting? It's just too hard to have to be pretty all the time, really. And then I forgot the question and I randomly picked a few books off my bookshelf downstairs at my townhouse. I went upstairs, put them down on the desk, and started writing a book I was writing on Stalin. I casually picked up one of the books, Pride and Prejudice, and it said Lydia. I went, oh yeah, there's a character named Lydia in that book. And then I picked up the next book, a Kurt Vonnegut book, and it said Lydia. And then I picked up another book, Ayn Rand, Lydia. Every book on my desk had my name in it. And I went, oh, thank you. That's how the great
Wow.
universal spirit or God speaks to me, through coincidence. And I
Yeah.
thought, this is fun. And then a weird thing started happening, and I would see 11:11. This is going to sound really otherworldly. I would see 11:11 on digital clocks. This is 1994, the beginning of my sobriety. I'm on a pink cloud for 6 months or so, where I went to meetings every day and I started just absorbing this beautiful spiritual, turning everything over to love, accepting my reality. I stayed sober. I wasn't doing drugs or drinking anymore. I was kind of happy. And I started seeing 11:11, and every time I see it, I just say a prayer. I read later that Kurt Vonnegut wrote about the 11th hour, the 11th month, Armistice Day, 11:11. And I just did a little prayer. And I asked my mother and my sister, I keep seeing 11:11 on digital clocks. What does it mean? They go, doo, 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 doo. We don't know, but you sound crazy. That very day, I go to a Pepperdine. Pepperdine is a college on the Malibu beach, and it's gorgeous. And it's where they filmed Battle of the Network Stars in the 80s, which I was on that show with Howard Cosell and William Shatner and Joan Collins and Heather Thomas. It was really fun. But anyway, to make a long story short, I'm standing on the deck going to a play starring Diane Cannon in the middle of the day on a Sunday. And a guy comes rushing over to me and he goes, Lydia, it's Vince. I met you in the unemployment line before you got famous. And I went, Vince, hi. And he had to sing on an album he was creating back then at the unemployment line. And he goes, you're glowing. What is it? You're glowing. And he starts holding my arms. And I go, well, I got sober, but I think I found God. I found this higher power thing. And he goes, you got to tell me about it because I keep seeing 11:11 on digital clocks. And I went,
Wow.
did you just say that to me? And I'm like, I'm not into the occult or weird things like this, but what do you mean by that? Because I just have too. I've been seeing that too. He goes, there's a book about it. It's called 1111, The Doorway to a Higher Awakening. And
Really?
at the Bodhi Tree, it's a spiritual bookstore in Los Angeles on Melrose that was very popular. They have every book in the world there on religion and spirituality. And it's where some of my funniest moments happened, where I picked up a guy one day. But I got the book, and it says, you'll soon start seeing, it just means you're matching up with synchronicity in life. So that's one of my really weird ones that I never tell anybody about. But
That is great. So whatever happened to the guy?
I'm friends with him today. He was my stockbroker for a while, and he made me a lot of
Nice.
money. And
That's
he's still,
fabulous.
yeah, he writes screenplays, and now he's still he's a friend on Facebook. And
Well, that's really great. And I know that we have so much coming our direction coming up. End of 25, 26. I just think that I think that the world is going to shift
yeah,
and there's going to be sides. And I hate to say it like that, but there's going to be a lot of people that want to hear about spirituality and try to figure out where they need to be and all of that stuff. And then I think that there's people that are lost that think that they're exactly where they're always going to be and that's all there is.
mm,
And I don't know how they change, you know what I'm saying? But that's not my deal. That's up to God to do that. I just know, and you said it, playful. It's very playful. Like God plays with me, and I get that. Like he'll do something, and it's just so uncanny and such a coincidence that I just laugh and I'm like, there's just no way that happened to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just that was all God, not me. And
well,
so I love it because it's fun.
yeah, okay, fun, joy, and playfulness. And in fact, I think early on I read somewhere we're supposed to be happy, joyous, and free, right?
Yes.
Fruits of the spirit.
And
Yeah.
yeah, happy, joyous, and free. It's a fruit of the spirit. And then the Bible, it also says, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven unless you become as like a little child. What is a child? Playful.
And I'm the
Not
magical
doesn't worry
person
about
I know.
anything, you
Sorry.
know? And
Yeah.
so worries about absolutely nothing. And it's just kind of like, and that's absolute faith. And so, I always hear that faith and fear cannot reside in the same heart.
Exactly.
So you either have faith or you have fear, but you can't have both.
Exactly.
And sometimes I get in the fear. It's like, am I going to be able to pay all these bills? Am I going to keep my job? Am I still going to have a paycheck? What's going to happen? How's God shots going to work? What's going on here? I need an airplane. I want to go to the West Coast. How's this going to work? And I just keep putting my wishes out there and then figure it out from there. And it all comes. And I think another big thing is gratitude.
Yeah.
This morning when I was walking and I was having some of those moments, I looked at where I actually am blessed to live and the fact that I have healthy children and healthy grandchildren and my mom is still living and just the blessings in my life. And I'm kind of like, that's where I need to focus on
Absolutely.
the blessings,
I
and
actually believe that the way I pray, prayer is the invisible transfer of love to another. And by the way, perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love is God, because it's
Mhm.
you don't have to be perfect. Doesn't mean we're humanly perfect. Actually, in our imperfection is where we find the most growth,
Right.
or in our problems and challenges. But all the people we think are stuck in their old ways that aren't going to change, you say, the way I have learned to pray for them is to see them not as weak, broken, or defective. Certainly not to judge them, which I have a problem. I really got to work on this one. But when I let go of trying to control anyone or anything, and I start thinking of them as a beautiful, thriving spirit, I see them laughing, smiling, happy. I always get a phone call later when somebody's happy. It's very weird. With my son, that's the way I hold good thoughts about him. I don't worry because that's negating the power of thank you for healing him. Thank you for helping my friend who's suffering. It's more with the gratitude means it's already done. You're not
Yeah.
being some anthropomorphic guy in the sky with a long white beard to help heal. It's a given because that's our
Yeah.
birthright. And if
Yes.
you are going to go biblical with it, why are we doing two creation stories? The first one is the only one you need. Everything's
Right.
made in the good, in the image of good.
Yeah. And I tell you what I really like, and I kind of keep this on my phone. but there's a picture of a beautiful little girl with curly brown hair. I mean, she's just a pretty little girl with a white dress on, just probably 5 years old. And she has a crown that's kind of sideways and she's straightening it up. And it says, when you're going through a difficult time, straighten your crown and remember who's your father,
Right.
the king, right?
Exactly.
So straighten your crown. And so I think about that. I'm like, I'm a princess.
Oh, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I love reading about Princess Kate. And it's like, oh, okay, I could be a princess.
Well, actually, you're right. There's no, if we really were to put our money where our mouth is and really live this, see, what I love about Synchronicity, our show, my recovery story, is actually the physical, tangible evidence of the practical application of spirituality in the real world. It's like, wow,
Right.
it intersects the real world. It's
It
not just
does.
intellectual. I'm not hearing a preacher preach to me about biblical verses. I'm actually
Yeah.
experiencing the fruits of the Spirit live in real time. That's
Yes.
what I love. The fun of this. That's why it's an exploration that never ends. It's infinitely joyous and fun to
And
share
just
these
when
concepts.
and just when you think that there's no more coming, something will happen. And you're
Always.
just like, how did that just work? Because there's no rational explanation for it, you
Yeah.
know? But it's always just, I don't know, it's just always unique. It's always surprising. God's timing is amazing. Now that's where I get a little bit crazy because I mean I want it like yesterday
So,
and he'll get it to me right on time, and I'm like, well, woo. Could have came a little quicker with that one, right? But it's just fun. And I want to get as many people as I can watching our podcast, contributing their
yeah,
stories,
we need their
and make
stories.
this just make it one big place where people can feel safe, hear the stories, put their own stories in, write books, be who they can be, all of it, you
Yes.
know?
Real quick, go back for a second. You said you wanted on your timeline. I
Yeah.
actually believe being rushing is today I heard this message on a podcast. It said, there's no rush. Everything's in divine order. And I went, oh my gosh, this whole year I've been worried that I didn't rush fast enough to finish my book. And I made my book into its own little god. I was making it too precious. And my ambition was thwarting the joy of the writing process because I was so hell bent on becoming more famous again sooner for a reason that I can go out and do public speaking, but I'm forgetting that I'm doing it right now when I'm
Wait,
sharing
wait.
the story out loud and
Yes.
just helping somebody. It's like, oh, I've put my ego in. My ego is not my amigo. So there is no rush. In fact, some of the lessons I learned this year wouldn't have been in the book if I'd rushed it.
Mm.
Really, you
Yeah,
know.
that's a good thing to think about. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what you said, yes, I want to say to the audience right now, we are collecting stories of synchronicity, of uncanny coincidence, glimmers of beauty and love and goodness in the universe, God shot stories of the good, and send them to us. And I'm going to put our email down below. We want to
I'll
hear
be
you, want
glad.
to have you on the show. And the
Absolutely.
storytelling is the most important thing to us. No,
Absolutely it is.
yeah,
And I hope that we just get blown up with people's stories
yeah,
because we are spending too much time questioning those stories and wondering how it's happening and what's going on when we really need to be getting it out there to everybody. And so people know it's not unique to just a special few people.
no,
It's it's unique to, I mean, it's for everybody. And
everybody.
it's just so cool when you're talking to like-minded people and you're hearing about this from others. And there's just no way to explain that any differently, you
Yeah,
know?
it's
So
really cool. There's so many
yeah.
weird synchronicities going on. And actually, if you seek it, you'll find it. If you look for beauty, you'll find it everywhere. But if you're not looking and you're kvetching and grumbling and you have a dark night of the soul, just take a glimmer of looking up, go outside, open the window of your mind,
Yes.
you know, act
Yeah.
as if it's possible to heal. Hope. Sometimes when I smile at people on the street, just smiling gives them hope that somebody else is happy in this dark world
Exactly.
right now, you know?
Exactly. And so I think that you're spot on with that. And I think this podcast can bring a lot of that forward. And I'm just really excited to carry on.
Me
So it's
too.
been a
We got
great
lots.
time being with you today. And I'm going to go and meet with some women. And I have a friend that's retiring. And so we're having just a little get together for her. And celebrating her new journey.
Oh, awesome. I'll see
Yeah,
you next week. We have lots of guests lined up. We have another one next week, and I'll keep you
perfect.
posted. And
All
you check
right, thank
me in
you. Have
later
a,
on what's going on in your life after this, okay?
yeah, we'll talk soon.
Okay, love you, darling.
Thank you. Love you too. Bye bye.
Godspeed.